Imagine a weapon, not a gun, not a cannon, not even an army. This weapon holds the power of the sun itself. In 1945, the world stopped imagining. The atomic age began. On August 6th, a blinding flash seared the sky over Hiroshima. A city vanished in an inferno of unimaginable heat and light. 3 days later, Nagasaki. The world would never be the same. The atomic bomb wasn't just another weapon, it was a revolution. Never before had humanity held such destructive capability in its hands. The story of the atomic bomb doesn't begin on a battlefield. It starts with scientists in labs, wrestling with the secrets of the universe. Names like Einstein, Curie, Fermi, Bohr, and Oppenheimer became synonymous with this quest. Each discovery brought them closer to unlocking the atom's incredible power, but their curiosity would have consequences they could never have imagined. It all starts with the atom, the tiny building block of everything. For centuries, atoms were thought to be the smallest particles. Then, scientists like Marie Curie discovered atoms buzzed with energy, containing protons and neutrons in a nucleus, orbited by electrons. Curie's research into radioactivity revealed that some atoms like uranium were unstable. They released energy in particles, a process she called radioactivity. This hinted at a hidden world of energy within the atom, but how to access this energy, that was the challenge. Enter Albert Einstein. His equation E equals mc squared became the scientific bedrock of the atomic age. It tells us mass and energy are interchangeable. A tiny amount of mass can become a mind-boggling amount of energy. Einstein recognized the implications, especially for the atom's nucleus. His work provided the theoretical framework that would guide others toward this new, terrifying source of power. The breakthrough came with the discovery of nuclear fission. Bombarding uranium with a neutron split the atom, releasing energy and more neutrons, triggering a chain reaction. This process unleashed a terrifying amount of energy in a fraction of a second. The power to destroy entire cities now seemed within reach, but so did the potential for a new source of energy. The year is 1939. The drums of war beat louder. Nazi Germany under Hitler is on the move, and not just with tanks and troops. Word spread, the Nazis were researching atomic energy. What if Hitler got the atom's power? The thought sent chills through the scientific community. Many scientists, especially Jewish ones, fled Europe carrying their knowledge and hopes for a better future. The race to control the atom had begun. Among those fleeing was Albert Einstein. With Leo Szilard and Edward Teller, he drafted a letter to President Roosevelt, warning of the atomic bomb's potential and the risk of Germany building one first. The letter landed on Roosevelt's desk, changing the course of history. Roosevelt responded by mobilizing America's scientific and industrial might. In Germany, Werner Heisenberg led the Nazi atomic effort under immense pressure. The world watched, fearing Hitler might unleash the atom's fury first. The stage was set for a scientific showdown. Knowledge and ingenuity would decide the fate of the world. With Roosevelt's order, the Manhattan Project was born, a top-secret effort to build the bomb before Nazi Germany. Quiet towns became hubs of scientific activity, universities turned into think tanks. Thousands of scientists and workers were recruited, sworn to secrecy. They were united by a single purpose: to win the war and prevent catastrophe. The weight of the world rested on their shoulders. Across the U.S., secret cities like Oak Ridge, Los Alamos, and Hanford sprang up overnight. Life was a mix of ordinary routines and extraordinary secrecy. The pressure was immense, the work relentless, but a shared sense of purpose and camaraderie kept them going. At the heart of the Manhattan Project was the gadget, the bomb itself. Turning theory into a weapon was a monumental challenge. Every calculation and experiment was fraught with risk, every breakthrough a leap into the unknown. Ingenuity and adaptability were their greatest tools. The challenges went beyond science. The Manhattan Project was a logistical feat. Raw materials sourced globally, factories retooled, new technologies invented. Thousands of tons of uranium had to be processed and enriched. All of this happened under a veil of secrecy, with the constant threat of espionage. The pressure on everyone involved was immense. As the war raged, pressure on the Manhattan Project intensified. Reports suggested the Nazis were making progress. Every delay heightened the urgency. Scientists worked around the clock, knowing the stakes. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. New Mexico desert, July 16, 1945. A hush fell over Trinity site. Years of relentless work had led to this moment. Atop a steel tower sat the gadget, ready for its first test. In bunkers miles away, scientists waited in anticipation and dread. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the project's enigmatic leader, felt the weight of responsibility. The countdown began, each tick echoing across the desert. The tension was palpable. For those at Trinity, time itself seemed to hold its breath. At 5:29 a.m., the desert sky erupted, a blinding flash brighter than 1,000 suns. Heat and shockwaves rolled across the land, incinerating everything in their path. The mushroom cloud rose, a symbol of the atomic age. In the bunkers, scientists watched in awe and terror. Some cheered, others wept, overwhelmed by what they had created. The power of the atom had been unleashed with devastating effect. The genie was out of the bottle. The silence after the explosion was deafening. Oppenheimer, pale and shaken, muttered, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." They had unlocked a force that could end civilization. August 6, 1945 dawned like any other day in Hiroshima. At 8:15 a.m. the Enola Gay released its deadly cargo, Little Boy. The bomb detonated above the city, unleashing the fury of 1,000 suns. Buildings vaporized, a firestorm swept through the city. People were reduced to shadows seared into walls, a haunting reminder of lives lost in an instant. Hiroshima, once vibrant, lay in ruins, a testament to the terrible power unleashed. 3 days after the devastation of Hiroshima, the world was gripped by a tense collective silence. People everywhere, on both sides of the conflict, waited, hoping desperately that the horror unleashed would be enough to end the bloodshed. In homes, in shelters, in government offices and on the front lines, there was a sense of dread, a hope that perhaps the unimaginable destruction would finally bring the war to a halt. But beneath that hope, there was also a growing fear. What if it wasn't enough? The machinery of war, once set in motion, is a force not easily stopped. Factories still churned out weapons, military leaders continued their strategies, and the momentum of conflict pressed forward, almost as if it had a life of its own. The decision-makers, weighed down by the burden of history, faced impossible choices, and the world teetered on the edge of further catastrophe. On August 9th, as the sun rose over Japan, the unimaginable happened again. The calendar turned, and with it, fate delivered another blow. The world watched, powerless, as history repeated itself in a matter of days. Nagasaki, a bustling port city nestled on the southern island of Kyushu, became the next target. Known for its shipyards, factories, and vibrant neighborhoods, Nagasaki was a city of life and industry, now marked for destruction. Its people, unaware of the fate about to befall them, went about their daily routines, never imagining that their city would soon be at the center of a world-changing event. That morning, a B-29 bomber named Boxcar took off, carrying a weapon even more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima. The bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was a plutonium device designed to unleash devastation on an even greater scale. As the plane soared through the clouds, its crew knew the gravity of their mission, but the true consequences were beyond anyone's comprehension. At 11:02 a.m., the bomb detonated high above a valley in Nagasaki. The surrounding hills, which had once protected the city from storms and invaders, now served to amplify the blast, trapping the shockwave and intensifying the destruction. The force of the explosion was so immense that it flattened everything in its path, leaving a scar on the landscape that would never fully heal. The city center, a dense mix of factories, homes, and schools, was obliterated in an instant. Buildings that had stood for generations were reduced to rubble. The heart of Nagasaki, once filled with the sounds of daily life, was silenced in a single blinding flash. Tens of thousands of people perished instantly, vaporized by the searing heat, crushed beneath collapsing buildings, or lost in the chaos that followed. Survivors wandered through the ruins, searching for loved ones, their lives forever changed in a matter of seconds. The suffering was unimaginable, and the scars, both physical and emotional, would last for generations. News of the second bombing spread rapidly, and the world reeled in horror. Leaders and citizens alike struggled to comprehend the scale of destruction. Headlines screamed of devastation, and people everywhere mourned for the innocent lives lost. The shockwaves of Nagasaki's destruction were felt far beyond Japan's shores. Two cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were gone in an instant, reduced to ashes by weapons unlike anything the world had ever seen. The devastation was total, the loss incalculable. The world could only look on in stunned silence, grappling with the reality of what had been unleashed. The atomic age, born in the remote deserts of New Mexico with the Trinity test, had now announced its arrival on the global stage. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki marked a turning point in human history, leaving a trail of unimaginable destruction and forever altering the course of the world. The shadow of the mushroom cloud would linger for generations, a stark reminder of the power humanity had unleashed, and the responsibility that came with it. On August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered, ending World War II. The atomic bombs, dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, had cast a long shadow over the victory celebrations. The world had entered a new era, one defined by the awesome and honestly terrifying power of nuclear weapons. The use of atomic bombs remains a subject of intense debate. Some argue that it was necessary to end the war quickly and save lives in the long run. Others condemn it as a moral abomination, a war crime that killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. Regardless of where one stands on this issue, one thing is clear: the world could never be the same. The atomic bombs had awakened humanity to the destructive potential of its own ingenuity. The world rebuilt from the ashes of World War II, brick by brick, hope by fragile hope. Cities that had been reduced to rubble began to rise again, their streets echoing with the sounds of hammers and the laughter of children daring to dream of peace. Yet beneath the surface a new kind of fear took root. A fear that could not be swept away with the debris. The mushroom cloud, once a singular horror, continued to cast a long, inescapable shadow over the world. It was a symbol of both ultimate destruction and the dawn of a new, uncertain era. The atomic bombs hadn't just leveled cities, they had shattered the illusion that humanity could ever be truly safe from itself. The devastation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a warning written in fire and ash. They'd leveled our sense of security, leaving behind a world where every siren, every distant thunderclap, could trigger a wave of anxiety. People learned to live with a constant, gnawing uncertainty. We'd peered into the abyss, glimpsed the possibility of our own extinction, and found ourselves changed. The world was no longer just a place of rebuilding, but a place haunted by what could be lost in an instant. And the abyss had stared back. The superpowers, locked in a deadly embrace, began a relentless arms race, each side determined not to fall behind, each new weapon a step closer to the brink. It became a chilling game of one-upmanship, a contest not just of military might but of ideology and survival. The world watched as leaders paraded their arsenals, each display a reminder of the stakes. Hydrogen bombs, thousands of times more powerful than their atomic predecessors, were developed and tested. The scale of destruction was almost unimaginable, the consequences irreversible. These weapons entered the arsenals of nations, multiplying in secret stockpiles, transported under heavy guard. The world's fate seemed to rest on a hair trigger. We built enough firepower to obliterate ourselves many times over, constructing vast networks of missile silos and underground bunkers. The threat was no longer distant, it was everywhere, woven into the fabric of daily life. Our finger hovered over the doomsday button, a single decision away from catastrophe. The world held its breath, hoping that reason would prevail over fear. But even without a nuclear war, the threat seeped into everyday existence. Families built fallout shelters, stocked supplies, and practiced drills, trying to prepare for the unthinkable. We lived with the consequences: radiation fears, contaminated landscapes, and the knowledge that safety was always provisional. Scientists and workers in protective suits became a common sight, reminders of invisible dangers. Cold War anxieties ran high, fueled by grim headlines and urgent radio broadcasts. Every new crisis was magnified by the possibility of nuclear escalation. Every geopolitical tremor was seen through the lens of potential nuclear annihilation. Diplomats and leaders met in tense summits, their words weighted with the fate of millions. School children practiced hiding under desks, their small bodies curled in futile defense against a force they could barely comprehend. The drills became routine, a strange ritual of the atomic age. It was a poignant symbol of our vulnerability, a generation growing up in the shadow of annihilation, learning to live with fear as a constant companion. And then there were the tests, hundreds of them, detonated in deserts, atolls, and remote wastelands. Each explosion sent shockwaves not just through the Earth, but through the collective psyche of humanity. These tests were conducted in the farthest corners of the globe, often displacing entire communities and leaving scars on the land that would last for generations. They spewed radioactive fallout into the atmosphere, an invisible poison that drifted on the wind, crossing borders and oceans. The unseen enemy, radiation, crept silently into our lives. It seeped into our soil, our water, our very bodies. Scientists tested for contamination, farmers worried over their crops, and parents wondered about the safety of their children. The Promethean fire we'd unleashed was a constant reminder, brilliant, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. We had entered a new era, living always in the shadow of our own creation. The legacy of the atomic bomb is complex, a tapestry woven from threads of horror and hope. In the aftermath of that fateful day, the world was forced to confront the unimaginable devastation that a single weapon could unleash. Cities were reduced to ashes in seconds, and generations were marked by the scars of radiation and loss. Yet, amid the ruins there emerged a profound sense of responsibility, a realization that humanity now possessed the power to shape its own destiny, for better or for worse. We can never undo the past, but we can learn from it. Each lesson, each story, each memory passed down is a reminder of the consequences of our choices. By studying history, we honor those who suffered, and ensure that their experiences guide our actions in the present and future. The atomic age confronted humanity with a stark choice: succumb to our destructive tendencies or rise above them and chart a new course. The world stood at a crossroads, forced to decide whether to let fear and aggression dictate our path, or to seek understanding, cooperation, and peace. The power of the atom, once a source of terror, also offered a glimmer of hope. Scientists and thinkers began to imagine a future where the same force that had brought so much destruction could be harnessed for the benefit of all. The atom became a symbol not just of devastation but of possibility. Nuclear energy, harnessed for peaceful purposes, held the potential to power our cities, fuel our industries, and address the growing energy needs of a burgeoning global population. It promised cleaner air, reduced reliance on fossil fuels, and a new era of technological advancement. The dream of abundant, sustainable energy inspired generations of scientists and engineers to push the boundaries of what was possible. But the challenges remain. The same technology that can light up a city can also threaten its very existence. The risks of accidents, human error, and natural disasters remind us that vigilance and responsibility must always accompany innovation. Nuclear proliferation, the spread of nuclear weapons to rogue states and terrorist organizations, is a constant threat. The global community must work together to prevent the misuse of this immense power, forging treaties, building trust, and maintaining strict safeguards to keep the world safe. Nuclear waste disposal presents a daunting environmental challenge. The byproducts of nuclear energy remain hazardous for thousands of years, demanding secure storage and careful management. The responsibility to protect future generations from this legacy weighs heavily on our shoulders, and the specter of nuclear terrorism haunts our collective imagination. The possibility that these materials could fall into the wrong hands is a chilling reminder of the vigilance required to safeguard our world. The story of the atomic bomb is a cautionary tale, a reminder of our capacity for both brilliance and self-destruction. It is a testament to the dual nature of human ingenuity, capable of creating wonders and horrors alike. The choices we make today will echo through the ages. It's a story that doesn't end with a bang or a whimper, but with a question. What will we choose? Will we allow fear and mistrust to divide us, or will we come together to build a safer, more just world? The answer lies not in the past but in the decisions we make every day. The future, as always, remains unwritten. Each of us holds a pen, ready to write the next chapter. The possibilities are as limitless as our imagination and our will to act. It's up to us, the inheritors of the atomic legacy, to decide whether we use this power wisely or allow it to destroy us. Our actions, our choices, and our commitment to peace and progress will determine the world we leave behind for those who follow. The choice and the responsibility rests on our shoulders. Let us choose wisely, with courage, compassion, and a vision for a brighter tomorrow.